Do you ever meet someone who just seems like they have an encyclopedia in their head? That's Ari Henning, and although he might say otherwise, he may very well know everything there is to know about motorcycles. At the very least, he's forgotten more than I'll ever know for sure. While he comes from quite a motorcycling pedigree, Ari actually developed his own knowledge of how motorcycles work, from tinkering with small junkyard engines. He worked his way up from there, figuring out how to get old bikes to run, reading any service manual he could get his hands on. Then Ari eventually found himself in the motorcycle journalism world, sharing his knowledge with the world with his web series aptly called The Shop Manual. But unless you asked him specifically what the torque spec is on a transmission cover bolt or the correct ignition timing on a 1970s UJM, you'd never know how much Ari actually knows, because his passion for motorcycles and riding shines through more than anything else. Whether he's taking the completely wrong motorcycle up to Alaska with his friend and fellow RevZilla moto celeb Zack Courts, racing his father's built-from-the-ground-up completely custom race bike at Barber Motorsports Park, or just simply going for a ride around town. This is Ari Henning. I'm your host, Mark Long, and you're listening to Driven to Ride. All right, Ari Henning, you are on Driven to Ride. Super stoked for you to be here, so thank you so much for the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate the invite.
Yeah. This is going to be a good one. I'm excited. I was going to say, if somebody doesn't know who you are in the motorcycle world, I'd be surprised, but we'll just kind of go with the standard decorum that I've kind of set up with the show. Is that what would people, in your own words, what would people most know you for, and what is maybe your claim to fame?
Ooh, good question. I think there's kind of a couple layers of that. I guess a lot of people might know me from Motorcyclist Magazine, because I was there for 10 years. And then maybe the younger generation might know me from the recreation that we did of the Dumb and Dumber mini bike road trip. That seems to get me recognized a fair amount in the younger folks. Okay,
cool. Yeah, I like how you said that. That's multiple layers, because you've had kind of a long, illustrious career. You've done, I'd say, dense. Really, I feel like you've done a lot of stuff. You've been in a lot of places. You just kind of live and breathe motorcycles all the time.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, born and raised around bikes, and then fortunate enough to have a career in motorcycles. So honestly, it fills pretty much every pocket of my life.
Yeah, well, let's kind of start right at the beginning. How did you even get into motorcycling in the first place?
It preceded me by generations. My grandfather was a motor officer in Miami.
No way.
My father got his first bike when he was like 14 and dropped out of high school when he was, I think, 15 and a half to ride his CB450 around the country. And road raced long before I was born. He was doing flat track and then road race. So I was born into a motorcycling family. And yeah, grew up around the racetrack and have just had bikes in the basement and bikes available to me and exposure to motorcycles for most of my life.
Yeah, so we have not as much of a parallel, but a little bit of a parallel. I grew up around motorcycles as well. My dad is a car mechanic, bike mechanic, all that kind of stuff. Always had motorcycles kind of in the garage at some point. And I don't remember when it was, but it was like I was a teenager or something. And I was like, wait, not everybody has like a project car and 3 motorcycles in the garage. And like people, like for into my 20s, I was like, yeah, I have 3 motorcycles. And everybody looked at me funny. I'm like, I thought that was normal, right?
It's a good way to grow up, right? With that sort of exposure.
Yeah.
I will say that my dad raced throughout my childhood, but he got hurt really bad when I was about 13 or 14. So motorcycles kind of took a back burner, but I got really into bicycles. And then I got into small engine mechanics. When I was a teenager, I did like lawnmower repair. And I remember like working on a Briggs and Stratton or whatever, and then looking around me and being like, there's a lot of motorcycles here. I wonder if I could get one of these running. And I did. It was an 83 Honda VT500 Ascot.
Okay.
And as I said, I was pedaling bikes a lot. Then I was really into BMX and dirt jumping. And I remember opening the throttle on the VT500 and going up a hill and being like, this is so much better than a bicycle. So there was a strange pause there from about age 13, 14 to probably 17 or 18 where I didn't ride motorcycles. And then when I got back into it, I got back into it hard.
Yeah. So it sounds like the second round, you kind of were hooked from the get-go as soon as you twisted that throttle.
Oh yeah. I think that would have been like spring. And I think that fall I did a road trip down to Key West from Massachusetts. So I bit the bug, or the bug bit me, I should say, and got into it pretty heavy.
Man. Yeah. We'll get into it a little bit more later, but you're no stranger to touring on motorcycles. But I mean, did you have any reservations about like that first trip? I mean, just going, that's probably what, 1,500 miles at least?
Yeah, thereabouts. No, I didn't have any reservations. And that's interesting because I remember my friends being like, oh man, aren't you like worried? And there's this perception that people seem to have that when you leave your zip code, you're more likely to have a mechanical or something. But like, that's just never bothered me. I did do it pretty foolishly. I was wearing like a, $99 Joe Rocket jacket. And I think I was wearing Carhartt jeans and work boots. So I was unprepared. I got pretty cold because it was it was that time of year. But no, I didn't. I've always just kind of had a confidence for travel and really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Because I don't want to date you too much, but it was probably before GPS, before cell phones, maybe.
Yeah, I had a Motorola potato phone, and I had wired in a charger directly to the battery, so the phone lived under my seat. Like I only pulled it out to like call home every once in a while. But yeah, that was all paper maps. Atlas using a highlighter, looking for squiggly roads to ride.
There you go. Yeah, I just figured it out the old school way. Yeah. I remember.
Fun.
Peter Egan said in one of his books, he kind of said that, where it was like, yeah, you just find the roads that look squiggly or that are not, they don't have numbers or something like that. And that's where you can find the fun roads.
Exactly. Maybe that's where I adopted it, but that was my MO as well. I also did a road trip to California a couple of years later. And that was literally just like day to day, did not know where I was going. I was just exploring, looking for fun roads to ride.
Nice. How did you kind of learn all like the insides and outs of motorcycles? You said it was a little bit of small engine repair. I mean, your dad had to have obviously had quite an encyclopedic knowledge of motorcycles for riding that long and racing and all that. Did you learn a lot from him? Was it a lot like kind of figuring out yourself, maybe a combination of both?
Yeah, a lot of people think that my dad would have instructed me a bunch, but he actually didn't. He was kind of too busy doing his own thing. And then, as I said, he got hurt when I was a teenager, which is probably when I would have really started learning from him. But honestly, it was osmosis. There was this sense that like, if someone can build something, I can figure out how to fix it. I can figure out how to take it apart. And seeing Dad fix anything, whether it was a motorcycle or the dishwasher or the furnace or anything, it just like imbued in me a sense that like, you can figure this out. So I never hesitated to just take something apart. And what I started with was crap I brought home from the dump, which didn't run anyway. So like, what's the worst that can happen if you take a lawnmower apart when it doesn't run? But I took a first lawnmower apart and put it back together, and then it started, and I was like, whoa, that was pretty cool. Let's see if I can do it again. And then I just kind of have a mind for mechanics. And I've read a lot of manuals. That's why the current show I host is called The Shop Manual, because that's just kind of a nod to really my source of education. It was just like, you can spend $37 and buy a book on whatever motorcycle you own, and it'll tell you how to do everything. And I've read them cover to cover, and you just sort of glean that a 12 millimeter bolt should be torqued to about 14 to 16 foot-pounds, and that 10W40 oil is good for up to 105 degrees Fahrenheit, that sort of thing, and just catalog it and then go from there.
Wow. Yeah, that's impressive, man. Yeah, because like I've seen quite a few episodes of the Shop Manual, and it's funny. It seems like you just have like this encyclopedic knowledge in your head. Like there's like the big book of motorcycling, like, you know, torque and specs and just details, and it just seems like it just lives in your head, in your mind, rent free from so many decades of learning.
There's a literal book that is called the Honda Common Service Manual. That is exactly what you're talking about. It is just general knowledge, and it explains how a thermostat works. It explains how different, valve actuation systems work. So all the information's out there, and I'm just curious about it. I like that. So all the years I spent flying international to go to press launches, someone might bring a novel or something. I usually literally brought manuals and read them.
That's cool.
I'm that boring of a person.
Well, I mean, maybe on planes you might be that boring, but like you said, you've had quite a few adventures. You've done some cool stuff with your friend Zack Courts as well. But before we get all of that, I want to go back to what you said about your road trip across the country. Because if I read it right, that's kind of how you got into motorcycle journalism, was as a result of that trip.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have been 18. No, I was 20, excuse me. It's been, I'm 41 now. So it's going back quite a ways, but yeah, I had applied, I'd spent a year or two going to community college, and then I applied to university, and I got accepted, and then they asked for a bunch of money, and I didn't have it. And I had just purchased a Suzuki Bandit 600. So I took what little money I did have and just decided to do a road trip. It was just open-ended. I didn't want to spend another winter in New England. So I left in October and just sort of wandered around the country trying to stay warm. And eventually made it out to California in April. So October through April to get to California. Wow. Good long ride. Yeah, I came over the Sierra Nevada in February into like verdant green hills and flowers blooming, and thought I was in paradise. And yeah, when I visited Los Angeles, I reached out to the editor-in-chief of Motorcyclist Magazine. It was basically like, told him what I was doing, sent the email, said, hey, my name's Ari Henning. This is what I'm doing. I'd love to meet up. And he recognized the name because my father was a pretty well-known road racer, and he'd actually done some projects with Motorcyclist Magazine. He had put the editor on one of his race bikes. So that got my foot in the door, and he took me out to lunch and telling him about what I did, about how I was camping off a motorcycle and stopping and working when I needed money and doing all this stuff. And he's like, hey, have you been taking pictures? I'm like, yeah. He's like, do you think you could write something? And I'd been journaling pretty extensively.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, when I got home, I composed a feature that I think ended up taking up this is back in the day when magazines, the book size was like 110 to 120 pages. It was like a 7 or 8 page feature.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's no joke.
That's a sizable piece. Yeah. And then the following year moved to California, moved to Santa Cruz and stayed in touch with then editor-in-chief Mitch Boom and just kept harassing him basically like once a week. I was kind of walking that line between being persistent and annoying, asking if I could like change tires in the shop or do anything. And eventually he threw me a bone to like have me write a review of some gloves. And then eventually he called me. He's like, hey, can you get down here to photo model at the track? And I was like, hell yeah. So that kind of snowballed into when Brian Catterson took over as editor-in-chief, he hired me on. So yeah, some persistence that got me in the door.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty wild. I mean, did you have like an interest in journalism and photography and writing before then? I mean, you said you journaled on the trip, but was it just kind of just discovered?
Yeah. Previous to that, the most formal thing I'd written was like my senior paper in high school. So yeah, it wasn't anything I wanted to do. And I often still say that like writing is a means to writing for me. I genuinely do not enjoy writing. It is very difficult for me. It is hard to get the words to come. The organization is difficult for me. I don't feel particularly adept at it, even though I've been doing it a long time. So it's still a challenge, but I recognize that that's a necessity in order to get to ride the bike. So I'm willing to accept that.
Interesting. Yeah. It's part of paying the bills, I guess, is you gotta do some stuff you don't like to pay the bills or to do what you like in that case. So kind of going off of that a little bit, you seem like such a good teacher. I think you've been doing the kind of the shop manual or a variation on it for a long time. I feel like you've been a long time educator, and you come at it from a very approachable kind of no assumptions way. You mentioned it's hard to write. Is it hard for you to explain in person or on a video of how things work, or do you find that a little bit easier?
I think explanation is really easy for me, like technical writing, explaining how things work. It's more what I'm referring to as being difficult as the creative aspect of like making a feature about a bike entertaining. I think I can convey facts very readily. And as far as writing the shop manual, yeah, I enjoy being a source of reliable information for people. And I enjoy making it concise because there are few things that I dislike more than rambling long YouTube videos where you have to listen to like the first bike the guy had and how his wife's car is not running right and how they had to take the dog to the vet before he tells you how much oil your Versa 650 should take for an oil change. So I just try and get right to it.
Yeah, you would have been great in the radio industry. The more concise, the better.
Yeah, perhaps I would have.
Yeah. So how did you go from kind of writing and doing stories like that? How did kind of the shop manual or getting onto the video thing become your thing?
Well, way back in 2011, there was this nascent online platform called YouTube that was looking for people to create videos because they were convinced that videos were the future. And they came to our then publisher, Source Interlink, which had Motorcyclist and Sport Rider and Hot Bike and Motor Trend and Hot Rod. Like all these titles were under one umbrella and in one building. They came to us and they're like, hey, you guys have a bunch of in-house experts. We want professionals who know, material experts to produce these videos. So they actually funded video production, unbeknownst to any of the associate editors or road test editors. So I went to the 2012 CBR 1000R press launch and they sent a videographer with me. And I just thought they were going to shoot video of me riding the bike and video of the bike. And he came over and started putting like a microphone on my leathers. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, well, we gotta make a video about this bike. And I was like, well, what do I do? And he's like, you got to talk about it. And I was just, I was paralyzed. And that video, unfortunately, is still out there if anyone wants to look it up and see how absolutely awkward I was. But yeah, that's how I got into it. It was not voluntary.
Wow.
It was just
okay.
Like someone put a lav mic on my leathers and I was like, what are you doing? But it turned out I kind of liked it because honestly, I recognized, similar to writing, I recognized that video was opening the door to like really cool opportunities. And so yeah, 2011 that started. And then we created at the time what was called On Two Wheels. And I really wanted someone to co-host with. So Zack Courts, who's my longtime friend, was not working at the magazine then. He was living up in San Francisco and the office was down in LA. But I would basically invite him down. And as road test editor of Motorcyclist, I had invited him down to be, to be a photo model to help me test bikes because he was racing, he was fast, he was a friend of mine, we had good rapport. And then he started co-hosting with me, and that was a ton of fun. And then he got hired in 2012. And yeah, we kind of went whole hog into making videos.
Yeah, because and you guys, have are longtime friends. You've been friends forever, and you can tell kind of, especially in the Common Tread XP videos, that you guys don't really. You've been friends long enough to the point where you don't get mad at each other. Like you've had friends that long where it's like you don't like what's coming. That maybe somebody needs a minute, or like this is how this person's going to act, and so you don't really get mad at anybody or whatever. So you can tell, but. Can you share the story of like how you guys became friends again? Because I thought that was the coolest story.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty epic, all things considered. And then the fact that we've worked together for so long. So my father and Zach's father, Tim, raced together in the same clubs in New England and up in Canada and all the way down to Florida. So Zach and I grew up as track rats. My dad would haul me along. I'd have a DR100. Zach had a KX80. And, dads would go racing, and it was the late 90s, and kids would get a sandwich or $5 for lunch and a tank full of gas, and we would just like go screw off. So whether it was Loudon or Daytona or Shubenacadie or Mossport, like we just got to hang out. And this is before the era of email, before the era of cell phones. So like, dad would be like, well, it's July, we're going to go race at Loudon. I'd be like, well, I hope Zach's there. And he would be.
Right.
So,
yeah. Maybe I'll see him.
Yeah. We were close friends throughout our younger years. I guess we would have met at like, I might've been 8 and he might've been 9, or maybe it was 7 and 9. I honestly don't know. But then when my dad got hurt in 1999, that completely, just like stopped racing, stopped going to the track, and just fell out of touch with Zach until 2007 or 8. After I did that road trip, I moved to California, did a track day, and within like a month had my AFM race license and was racing, and saw Zach's name on the roster for an endurance race at Sonoma, and it said like Zack Courts, Boston, Mass. And I'm like, well, there's no way that's not the same Zack Courts. So yeah, we met up again in California. We had independently moved to California and independently got into road racing, and then reconnected at the racetrack.
That's so wild.
And then yeah, we've been working together for 15 years. I can't even do the math. Like we shared an office. He lived with us for a while before he got his own place, and now he's married with kids, and I'm married with kids. So it's been a really cool, it's really cool. And you talk about that rapport. Like we grew up rural New England. Mm-hmm. So having that to fall back on, like New England's got a pretty distinct culture. Our dads were both like ponytail hippies. So like they were both into vintage bikes. So like we were kind of steeped in the same community and culture growing up. And that gives us like something to fall back on. And obviously just knowing each other and having that similarity in terms of like what we like to ride and what we like to do. We wear the same Neotech helmets. We wear the same Aerostitch. Like we own the same trucks. It's kind of ridiculous how similar our tastes are in a lot of things. So yeah, it's been really amazing to get to share so much of my career with him, and it wouldn't have worked without him, because that rapport you see that's the secret sauce, man. Like you can't fake that.
No, yeah, you really can't. I've got a couple of friends that I'm lucky enough to have a couple of friends like that, where, like I said, what's coming, what like they're going to get upset about, and you just kind of let them ride it out. That you don't get mad at each other. You've been friends for too long. So fast forwarding in your career a little bit, since we're on the topic, you and Zach have done and documented quite a few adventures with RevZilla, and under the Common Tread XP banner, which you talked about the Dumb and Dumber mini bike road trip. One of my favorites was, I think it was around or across Wyoming without touching like an actual street. It was all dirt, and it was all like unpaved roads. The first one I ever saw, which made me want to go, was the Alaska trip. That one was insane. And that's just a couple of the ton of these that you've done. Is it you coming up with these? Is it Zach? Do you guys is it a little bit of both? Like how did that even get started? Like, let's just go somewhere crazy and film it.
Yeah. Well, there's a third leg to this stool, and that is Spencer Robert, who is our director, producer, editor, the storyteller expert that really makes the stuff happen. And he joined us in 2014. So we've been with him for 12 years now. And it is, how does it work? We have a weekly meeting on Wednesdays that lasts 2 hours, and we ideate and we work out the details. And it's quite a process. One of the things that we rely on is wrong tool for the job, hence a 1975 CT90, the top of Alaska. But there also has to be challenges. There have to be tent poles within the episode. There's a number of factors and nuances that kind of have to be met in order to get vetted for an episode. And we've got a spreadsheet. We've got a spreadsheet that probably, it goes back over a decade now, and it's probably got over 100 ideas on it, or around 100 ideas on it that we will go through and for one reason or another have not decided to do, or have not figured out a way to make it happen. Because it's not just like, we don't just turn the cameras on and go. Like, we think about this stuff a lot. Like, it is obviously, it's unscripted when we're out there, but in terms of what we're going to do, it's a pretty fine mesh on the net to figure out what we're going to do. But it is definitely a 3-way process to figure out what the ideas are.
Interesting. Yeah. So does Spencer ride as well, or is he kind of the chase vehicle, or just maybe depends on the adventure?
He's a very capable and skilled rider. He also comes from a family of skilled and capable riders. I believe his grandfather's also a motorcyclist. But yeah, occasionally they're in a chase truck. So it's usually just a team of 4. It's Zack, myself, Spencer, and then Andrew Garrity, who is a freelancer, but he has become an absolutely integral part of the team and a dear friend of ours. And so they'll typically be in a chase truck with the equipment. But occasionally we've shot stuff with Spencer. Like the first episode we did for RevZilla, which was during the pandemic, he was also on a bike. So everything was on motorcycle.
Nice. Was this idea like because of COVID kind of thing, or because of the pandemic? Was it like you didn't have anything else to do, or like was it already in the works? Like how did the idea even come to fruition to just like, hey, we're going to leave for like however long we're going to leave for, and we'll be back, but we're going to make an awesome video out of it?
Well, I mean, we got hired by RevZilla to make videos, and we got hired right before COVID hit, and then COVID hit, and we still had to make a video. So, I mean, that's the beauty of motorcycles, right? It's already kind of social distancing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea for that one, that was the Royal Enfield Himalayan versus CSC 450.
Okay.
So like a Chinese, basically dual sport.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was sort of a comparison, which we try and factor in useful comparative information, but we don't necessarily do comparisons. Like when we did the ride across Wyoming, it was a XL 350 and a DT1, and we did compare them and we did give information about how they performed. But obviously, like that's kind of an irrelevant comparison. It's not guiding anyone's purchase decision. But it's also just sort of baked into who we are. I spent 10 years at Motorcyclist, where that was my job, was to explain to people which bike did what and why it might be better than the other, and Zack as well. So that always comes through in some way or another.
Yeah. You're kind of wired that way. You can't help it. And I think honestly, it makes it funnier when it's like you said, like the wrong tool for the job. And it's like, well, see, this is terrible because of this. You know what I mean? Like there's an analysis to it. Yeah.
And it also hopefully encourages people to just get out and ride. Like something Zack and I always say is like, whatever bike you have is an adventure bike. You don't need, like I said, we rode a CT90 up to the top of Alaska, and we've ridden goofy bikes all over the place. Like you don't need an R1250 GS or an R1300 GS or any sophisticated equipment. If you've got a motorcycle, you can go have an adventure.
Yeah, that's true. I learned that 2 years ago. I have a 2019 Yamaha XSR 900, and I rode that to Sturgis and back from Chicago.
Beautiful.
It was a great time, man. I really enjoyed it. I mean, my hands were a little like you get that vibration in your hands for like a week afterwards. And I didn't have a windshield or anything. I had some luggage thanks to SW Motec or whatever. But yeah, that was a wild ride. And I was even surprised because I had a lot of people like say, hey man, that's a super awesome bike. Like you rode that all the way from Chicago. I'm like, yeah, it was a great time. And then I'm sure you've been to this, at least to like the South Dakota Black Hills area. You're like, what a great place to ride.
It's really beautiful. Yeah, go there outside of August, outside of the rally. It would be my recommendation. It's
Agreed.
Too crowded. But yeah, it's a gorgeous part of the country. I'm actually going back there in July for the RevZilla Get On Adventure Fest, which should be a lot of fun.
Nice. Talking about the common tread videos, one of the most epic, I guess, in a certain way, or one that was unique is the one about the Drixton. It's funny. I had no I had no idea what the video was going to be about. And it was it spoke to me, at least like the essence of like why motorcycling is so important to people. And it really dove into you, like you said, you've alluded to the family connection in your dad and all that kind of stuff. Can you tell me like the story of how that one came to fruition? Because that seemed to be probably one of the most personal videos I think you've ever made.
Yeah, far and away. I mean, it's like one of the most significant things that has happened in my life, other than getting married and the birth of my children, and my dad's accident to begin with. But yeah, I've alluded to that a few times. My dad was in a really bad accident in 1999 at Sonoma Raceway, then called Sears Point, and he got knocked out and run over and was in a coma, and they didn't think he was going to make it. So that obviously shook my family's life up in a huge way.
Yeah.
And in 2024, I might have my dates off just because I am a parent now. So I don't know what day of the week it is or what year it is. My parents' house blew up. There was a propane leak, and the house that they built in 1983 that housed, that we had all grown up in and that had all my dad's trophies and leathers and tools and everything he had collected over a lifetime of professional motorcycling was gone. Just absolutely, just a crater in the ground.
Wow.
And that kind of really put a fire under my ass to track down his Drixton. I had the idea years ago to find it and restore it. And my goal was to find it and restore it and put it in the Concours d'Elegance at Barber. Because a friend of mine who works there was like, hey man, or not the Concours d'Elegance, the Concours de Competition. He was basically like, if you can get that bike in, I think it would have a shoe in for winning. And that was like, for me, I wanted to do that as a way to honor my dad and kind of put closure on that. But life happens. I tracked down the bike. I spoke to the people that owned it. They were willing to sell it to me. They wanted a lot of money for it, which is reasonable. And it was on the other side of the country. And I just didn't see how I was going to make it happen. But then the house exploded and that really lit a fire under my ass. And I kind of mentioned the idea to the guys as being like, well, there's this bike and there's the Barber Vintage Festival. It'd be super cool to race it at the Barber Vintage Festival. But I thought it was going to take me months. It should have taken me months to rebuild that bike.
Yeah.
But through the absolute magical power of CTXP and the commitment of the team at RevZilla and my immediate teammates on the production team, we made it happen. So we went and retrieved the motorcycle. We rebuilt it in a matter of days. And then I raced it at Barber and then donated it to the museum where it will be preserved in perpetuity for everyone to see and to serve as sort of a memorial to my dad, as something that he created as a guy that dropped out of high school and had to teach himself how to build bikes and did it to a level that, was beating matchless G50s and ex Agostini MV Agustas and people with so much more money and resources than him. So if the audience has not seen that video, obviously I'm biased, but I've had myriad people tell me it's the best motorcycle documentary they've ever seen. It has won numerous awards. It actually just won an award through AVA today. We got the announcement.
Congrats.
Won platinum. It won People's Choice at the Portland Motorcycle Film Festival. It showed in Toronto. It showed in Lagos, Portugal. It's been shown everywhere and it really resonates with people. So yeah, again, I'm biased, but I would strongly recommend watching it because even like the story, you couldn't make that up if you tried.
No, you can't.
The ingredients that are there, you just like couldn't have concocted them.
Yeah.
Even as like, yeah, it's amazing. It still gives me goosebumps.
And Spurgeon just coming up with a school bus, and you guys are working on this thing day and night in a school bus. Like that's dedication, man. That's dedication. And just to put it into context a little bit, you mentioned it that your dad built this bike and it was beating factory machines. I mean, everything was basically custom on this motorcycle, right?
Yeah. I mean, he was determined within the letter of the law for the clubs that he raced in to find the optimal components. So like the frame had been built and raced in Grand Prix racing for like 2 years in the 60s. So he tracked down an original and reverse engineered it and had it manufactured. And, he was double plugging the cylinder head, putting 2 spark plugs in to increase combustion speed, which became like, they did that to the V-Strom and the SV650 in like the late 2000s.
Yeah.
Like he was ahead of his time on this stuff. Came up with his own cam grinds, came up with his own piston design, spent just innumerable hours on the flow bench, which he had a flow bench. He was learning from Kevin Cameron, who I'm sure everyone knows.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And at one point, Kevin Cameron says, "You're using this way more than me. Take it." And so Kevin Cameron gave my father his flow bench to use, and that's what he used to flow heads. And I've spoken, Kevin Cameron's a family friend, and like he wrote about him in the editorials that he would do for Cycle World. And he says that he's the single most talented and intelligent one-man team he had ever met, which is like coming from Kevin Cameron is really something.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for those, if you don't know who Kevin Cameron is, just a technical editor at Cycle World, I think is his title.
It's been his title for like 1,000 years.
Yeah, that guy has probably forgotten more about motorcycles than any of us have ever learned. You know what I mean? So, but that's just the context of how special this motorcycle is. And, what was that feeling like riding it at Barber? Because, obviously Barber Motorsports Museum and the track is pretty legendary and, houses some one-of-ones and some pretty amazing motorcycles. But to be able to race that, I mean, what was that feeling like? I mean,
borderline overwhelming. I mean, I was very, very grateful. And I think I say as much in the episode, very grateful for my race instincts to take over, because I needed something to be a guiding light, because getting back on the motorcycle that my dad had built. And frankly, that's the motorcycle that scrambled his brain. I mean, he has a severe traumatic brain injury. He is not the person he used to be. That reality, that dichotomy of being excited to ride the bike, but also like, holding the sword that took down the samurai type of thing. It's still, I'm not sure like I fully processed it, which is why I was grateful to be like, I am a racer. I know how to race. I inherited that from my dad, and was very grateful for just being like, at that point, that motorcycle's a tool. That motorcycle's a tool to win a race. And that's as precious as it is. Any motorcycle I get on to race is basically, that's how I feel about it. And that's a piece of advice that was given to me by someone who's very precious and expensive motorcycle I was racing at one point. So I appreciate that perspective. They're meant to be raced and ridden, and I know how to do that. So I was grateful to be able to put the visor down and do that. But yeah, I mean, you saw the episode. I'm a train wreck at the end of the race. Like,
I mean, but understandably so.
Yeah. We had conversations early on when we were doing pre-production where I had to like tell my team, like, this is going to be hard. Like, keep an eye out for me, because like, this is going to be really challenging. And it was, and they supported me the whole way.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on all the awards and the accolades on the film. It is a film. I mean, it's not just a YouTube video. It is a film.
Yeah.
It is amazing. It is emotional. I mean, it was shot really well. I mean, the bike is beautiful, and so again, congratulations on releasing that film. And I would agree, that's probably one of the best motorcycle films ever made. So well done. But switching gears a little bit, you mentioned you've been a racer. You inherited that kind of race instinct, hereditarily speaking. And you mentioned earlier that you got you got your AFM license in California. How did you get into road racing from the get-go?
Oh man. I mean, you do a track day and then you're just addicted.
And that was that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just like dragging knee the first time, I was like, this is awesome. I've always enjoyed going fast. And obviously the racetrack is the appropriate place to do it. And I love the thrill of competition. And one of the things I like about trying to ride a motorcycle fast is just you're never done working, Right. Valentino Rossi was still practicing and training, and, he's the GOAT, but just the satisfaction of a clean lap, which I've had very, very few of in my career, that pursuit of not necessarily perfection, but just good enough, is so satisfying. And I like working on bikes. I like making bikes better. I like challenging myself. So yeah, I raced AFM, and then I moved to Southern California, and we're so fortunate to have so many clubs and racetracks here.
Yeah.
And as a young road test editor, I was doing track days once or twice a month. So it was just like complete immersion in that community, and had such a good time doing it.
Did you play like sports as a kid? Did you have like a net that where the competition came from, or was it just kind of, it must have been the racing DNA, man?
No, man. It didn't happen until I raced. Yeah. I didn't do any sports. I did like recreational baseball when I was like 8 years old in the summer or something. But yeah, I didn't do any sports. Unfortunately, I kind of wish I had, because it turns out I really like running and cycling and stuff. But yeah, I didn't have any taste of that until I started riding motorcycles.
And that's where it came from. Yeah. I could see that though, where it's like, okay, cause it is a solo sport to a degree. Obviously you're racing against other people, but you are racing against yourself. Cause it's like, if you did a great lap, and then you could like, okay, can I shave a half second off this? Can I shave a second off this? And, for somebody who works on the bike as well, it's like, okay, can I make any adjustments outside of necessarily my technique or my skills to make the bike perform a half second better or a full second better, or anything like that? It's like you said, it's a constant, almost competition against yourself in a bunch of different ways.
It's a constant process of improvement, and that's always satisfying to make improvements.
Yeah. Kind of speaking of that, how has the motorcycle world kind of changed with technology over your career? I mean, we've come a long way from drum brakes and carburation and stuff. Has the technology changed how you approach motorcycles at all, whether that's working on them or racing them or enjoying them or anything like that?
I mean, I'll just start with the basics of evaluating them. It's become a lot harder because these bikes have such vast menus now and features, whether it's electronic suspension and ride modes and all like adaptive cruise control. I kind of miss the early days of my career. Like I was evaluating bikes when ABS was kind of new.
Right.
And then I remember when traction control came around with like the MV goes to F4RR and I think the 1098. And yeah, it's gotten, I don't want to say overwhelming, because now people are kind of you can just say like, it's got the full electronic suite and they kind of know what you mean. I don't have to explain what everything is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's changed. It's certainly changed. In some ways, it's taken away like the purity of riding a motorcycle, just like not having all of those things that are to interact with or adjust. And it certainly made them harder to work on. I mean, even just taking them apart, there's so many more wires and connectors and things are packaged so much more tightly than they used to be. So yeah, I mean, the bikes are undeniably better, more sophisticated, safer, faster, higher performance. But I do, there's a reason I like to work on vintage bikes and there's a reason I like to work on simpler motorcycles because I like the accessibility and the kind of straightforwardness of the design.
Well, talking about kind of the variation, do you have kind of your own personal motorcycle collection in the garage, or do you only have a couple? Like what are your personal bikes, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh boy, I got a bunch of weird stuff, man. I've got a Honda MB5, which is like a little 5-speed 2-stroke 50cc bike that Honda only imported once, I think in 82. Yeah, that like whatever. I like quirky little stuff, but that's a bike that Zach and I did a 24-hour endurance race on a million years ago. So I've kept that one. I've got my dad's CB350 Arma Road Racer, which I've raced on a bunch. My street bike is a Versus 650 LT. So like just the poor man's GS.
Yeah.
I've got an RM85 Mini Moto, like little kid's dirt bike with 12-inch wheels and slicks on it that I take to go-kart tracks. I've got a KTM XCW 300 that I ride desert on. I've got a CRF 300L that I ride desert on. It's kind of a lightweight ADV bike. I've got a CRF 50 that's on slicks as well that I rip around parking lots and do wheelies on. What else have I got? I've probably got other bikes that I can't remember.
Maybe they're somewhere. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I imagine after being in the motorcycle world for that long and having the extensive knowledge you do, the weird, quirky ones probably do stand out because it's like, well, that's not something you see every day.
Yeah. Or they've got like a lot of nostalgic value. So I don't want to get rid of them.
Yeah. Well, thankfully they don't take up a ton of space.
Yeah. And a lot of them are small, right? Like I've been tempted to get a GS, but I just, the opposed twin just takes up so much space in the garage. They're so wide.
Yeah. You mentioned you're married and have a family. Does your wife ride? Have your kids, expressed any interest in riding or anything like that? Or is it just something that like dad does?
Oh no, my kids are young. That my son's about to turn 3 and my daughter's only 16 months old, but they both spend time with me in the shop. My son Milo's got a little tool collection and he always wants to sit on bikes and he's super into cycling. Like he's got a little Strider bike that he rips on.
Nice.
So I can see Kawasaki gave me one of their Electrode electric bikes, but he's still too small for it. But I can definitely see him getting on that. And his sister, I'm sure she wants to do everything that he does. So she'll probably follow suit. My wife doesn't ride. She knows how. She hasn't done it in a long time. But her and I did a bunch of road trips, earlier on. But it's mostly, nice. I'm kind of spearheading the motorcycle interest in the family, which is fine.
Yeah, I'd say that's not the worst thing to be doing. So speaking of road trips, obviously you've documented quite a few with Common Tread XP. Do you have like a favorite road trip that you've done that maybe you necessarily haven't documented or that you've just done for fun?
Oh man, well we've documented most of them. Even that road trip across the country got documented with a magazine feature, right? No, I don't really do big trips and not document them. That's part of that's part of the career. But I feel so fortunate that we get these incredible episodes as a journal entry to look back on of just really cool, unique stuff. Like it's not just a random road trip. Like they're always epic. Like whether it's across Wyoming or the top of Alaska or the Dumb and Dumber road trip or riding Zach's dad's sidecar on the street to a race in Canada. The police rodeo one is one that really stands out to me, where we went and participated in a police rodeo in Texas, which is it was like a national championship that was only open to officers, but we kind of talked our way in. And it was just so satisfying to learn how to ride a bike that way because it was an entirely new set of skills and I really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, it's such a blessing to be able to document these cool trips in such a grandiose format and have them to look back on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, it's kind of funny because obviously it's entertainment for literally millions of people. You've got millions of views on them and, it's cool to watch like as an audience member, but for you and for Zach and for everybody else, it's kind of like your own personal memories in full 4K, which is not the worst.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice too, because the edit always puts like rose colored glasses on it.
Right.
So like look back and just like, it looks so pleasant. And like, obviously it's fun, but there's, the Wyoming one in particular, there was some bitter cold that we had to endure. and the mud and the bike seizing and like slept under a bridge for crying out loud. That was when I was like, maybe I'm getting a little too old for this.
Yeah. And I mean, if I remember right, you guys are, I can't remember if it was you or Zach, but one of you almost like fell off the side. I remember there's like a scene where you're just like the road or the trail is like a foot wide or whatever. And you guys are threading the needle, man.
Yep. That could be any number of episodes, frankly. we thread a lot of needles in CTXP.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's cool. So kind of a two-part question. What, if you can share what's coming up. You mentioned you've got the Adventure Fest, I think it was called, for RevZilla coming up in the summer, but any like, maybe new Common Tread XPs that you've got batting around that you can preview?
We're getting ready to film one next month. So we're recording now in April. So we're going to film in May. And all I will say is that it does involve sidecars.
Okay.
Which both Zach and I have an affinity for them. So I can't divulge much more than that, or Spencer Robert will somehow punish me in the field. And I'm probably going to get enough punishment as is, so I don't need to push my luck.
Fair.
But yeah, we tend to keep the ideas kind of close to the chest until they actually go live. But yeah, we're both, Zach and I both have young children. So we're kind of doing smaller scale, shorter duration for the time being, just while we're managing diapers and tantrums and all that at home.
Right. Yeah. Actually, that kind of a quick sidebar. Have you, on any of these Common Tread XPs, have people like recognized you? Have you kind of guys been recognized on the street at all? Or?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Pretty frequently.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I remember as I referenced, I worked at Motorcyclist Magazine, and I would get recognized because I worked at Motorcyclist Magazine. I remember the first time someone recognized me and I was like, "Oh, are you a subscriber?" And they're like,
"Oh, okay.
What do you mean?" And I was like, "To Motorcyclist Magazine." And they were like, "What's that?" And it was when YouTube started to eclipse or catch up with print. And I remember that being like a really, really kind of like paradigm shift for me. And that was when I realized like, videos are probably the future here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got a hell of a library of videos to watch, and they're either all educational or entertaining or quite a bit of both. So thanks for making such great content, and I think making motorcycles much more approachable to people. I mean, like I said earlier, that's kind of the vibe that I get from watching your videos, as you kind of start with no assumptions. There's no judgment or anything like that. You have to like take this test before you watch an Ari Henning video. There's always something to learn no matter what. And I really appreciate that approachable style that you have. Yeah,
right on. I'm glad that comes across. That's very much in line with how I want to present motorcycling as accessible and inclusive. So yeah, I'm glad that tracks.
Yeah. After, I dare to say 2 decades in the motorcycle industry, what keeps you going? Why, what is it about bikes that still, kind of drives you to keep it going for this long?
I mean, like most motorcyclists, they make me happy. They're joy machines. I love riding everything from wonky scooters up to the fastest superbike. Like if it's got 2 wheels and a motor, I'm going to derive some sort of enjoyment from it. And I'm fortunate enough to like have that be my job. So like, I can't really complain. I get to ride motorcycles for a living, and the whole like do what you love thing. I'm getting to do it.
I love it. Well, I think that's a great note to end on. So, Ari, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. And just in case somebody doesn't know where to find you, where can they find you?
We're on the RevZilla YouTube channel. That's where the shop manual is and the CTXP adventures are, as well as Zach's Daily Rider Show. And then I also write for Common Tread, which is RevZilla's blog. So we've got an article that goes up every day. So there's always content there. And then I'm on the usual social media platforms, although not particularly active these days. So probably easiest to find me over at RevZilla. Yeah, well, you're busy riding, and when you're not riding, you're taking care of kids and all that. So, but it's again, thank you for the time. It's been an awesome conversation, and I hope we get to do it again sometime. Yeah, man, appreciate it. Thanks for listening to Driven to Ride. Interact with us and check out full unedited conversations, photos, interviews, video interviews, plus other goodies on YouTube or Instagram at Driven to Ride Podcast. Or you can check us out at driventoridepodcast.com. And make sure you leave us a rating and review from wherever you get your podcasts too. If you have an idea for an episode or a guest, or you want to invite us out on an adventure, email us hello@driventoridepodcast.com. Driven to Ride is wholly owned by Flint Rock LLC. Made possible with help from Matthew Miles, and written, hosted, and produced by me, Mark Long. We'll see you out there.